Hello, this is Bob, and in this video we will be discussing 5 tips to crack a C#.NET interview or any technical interview. So let's get started. Tip number 1. Explain OOPS concept by example. So if you're going for a C#.NET interview, it is most probable that the interview will start the process by asking you some object-oriented programming concepts, because C# is an object-oriented language like Java. So they will be asking some questions like abstract class, interface, what is the difference between the two, what is the practical use of those things, and where have you actually used it in your project. So rather than giving a bookish definition or a definition that you have just read from a book, you have to explain the concept along with an example from the real world. Like, let's take the example of a class. Everyone knows that a class is a blueprint of a real world object, but how do you actually explain it through an example? So for that, maybe for me, I'll take the example of a car. A car in a real world can be represented as a class in any object-oriented programming language like C#. So if you draw the class diagram of a class, it will have a set of methods and a set of attributes. Methods are something which actually drive the car, which drive the components inside the engine of a car, like refuel, get fuel, set speed, get speed. If you want to know what is the speed at which the car is running, you just look at the speedometer. But what exactly happens inside the speedometer is, the speedometer has something which can get the speed of revolution of the wheel, and in that way it calculates its speed. So you can represent that activity as a method called getSpeed inside the car class which you are building inside using the programming language. So that is how you explain to the interviewer, and he will be able to know that you have the ability, you have a strong understanding of those concepts, and you can apply them in a programming language. Similarly, a car will have attributes. Attributes are properties which define the car. Like we have specifications. When we're buying a car, we get its specifications. We read about those specifications on the internet, about what's its horsepower, what is its maximum speed, how many gears it have. So in that way, you can define those attributes in a class, like fuel, max speed, number of gears, and all. So that is how we explain the class concept. If you take the example of a more advanced object-oriented concept of inheritance, where we have parent class and we can subclass into a child class. A child class can inherit from a parent class. So the child class will have all the properties and methods of the parent class, as well as it is possible to add some more methods and properties in the child class. So for example, we have a parent class called the vehicle. A vehicle is something which can move. It just contains that much information, that it is something which can move. But when we subclass it into two classes, one is the wheeled vehicle and one is a floating vehicle. Both of these things move, but in case of a wheeled vehicle, we are adding something called wheels, which can allow it to move on land. In case of this, we will have a propeller which will allow it to move on water. So this is a boat, and this is a wheeled vehicle. A wheeled vehicle can further be subclassed into two kinds, called the four-wheeler and the two-wheeler. A four-wheeler has four wheels, the two-wheeler has two wheels. The four-wheeler can again be subclassed into several different kinds of cars. Maybe a small car, luxury car, or SUV. So in that way, we can add more properties into the four-wheeler class. So you have to explain it through an example. You can take your own example. It is just not limited to cars. Actually, cars are examples used in most of the books. In most of the interviews happened, most of the candidates will be giving an example of a car. It is more recommended that if you can give an example of an object which you have implemented in your past projects, something other than a car, that will impress the interviewer more. Let's move on to tip number 2. Drive the interview towards what they are looking for. So when you're going for an interview, you will be getting a job description via an email. The company will be sending you the job description about what exactly they are looking for in the candidate. So for that, just go through the job description very carefully, and you may also check your mails. You can do a search for the company name in your mailbox for for all the kinds of mails that you have got from the company. So go through all those job descriptions and you'll get something, and try to find out something which is common across all the job description. What technologies are they exactly looking for? They will be clearly mentioning what they are looking for. For example, maybe they mentioned that they're looking for someone who is strong on SQL Server and Entity Framework. So when you go to the interview, just mention it to the interviewer that you are keen on working on those technologies, SQL Server and Entity Framework. Also tell him that you are open to work on all the Microsoft.NET technologies. You have a hands-on experience on C#, WCF, WPF, ASP.NET. You have a hands-on on everything, but you are more keen on working on SQL and Entity Framework. That will help you land the job because your interests are in line with their requirements. So that is how you drive the interview towards what they're looking for. And also make sure that you are able to answer the questions on those technologies what they're looking for. Let's move on to tip number 3. Many times you will have situations where you are not sure about the topic they're asking on. So it is possible, it is always there, because in any interview no one can answer 100% of the questions. There will be some questions where there will be some topics which you are not 100% sure about. In that case, try to attempt it. Try to attempt it in a way which will make the interviewer realize that you have an attitude of getting things done. You are not someone who will quit if you do not know something, because when working you will have several situations where you will not have an where you will be not sure how to manage an issue, how to fix an issue. Try to attempt to answer the question. Do not stay silent. When you are not sure about the topic, do not panic and give up. Just try to answer it. And it goes without saying that if you have never heard about the topic, you have no idea, you're hearing the word for the first time, then politely say that you have no idea. Do not try to bluff, because bluffing, as you know, is a very negative thing to do in an interview, and it can make them reject you. So let's move on to tip number 4. Try to use a paper and pencil or a whiteboard to draw something. When you are explaining something, if you just keep on talking about 5 to 6 minutes continuously, there are things in architectural patterns like the solid principles and all, where you have to speak for around 6 to 7 minutes to explain the entire principles. So in that case, if you keep on talking, the interviewer may get bored, because that interviewer might have taken interviews for around a lot of candidates before you have come into the room. So to keep his interest focused, ask for a pen and paper, and most probably you will be given a pen and paper when you enter the interview room. So try to sketch as much as possible. By sketching, you are trying to catch the interviewer's attention to the paper or the whiteboard. So tip number 5 is ask questions to the interviewer. When the interview is done, the interviewer will most probably ask you, do you have any questions for us or for me? So in that case, do not say that you do not have any questions. Try to ask questions which will show that you are interested in the job. The best question to ask is, if I get to join the organization, if I get to join the project, what exact technologies will I be working on? What exposure will I get? So it makes the interviewer feel that you are interested for the job, and you have not just come for an interview for the namesake. So these are the 5 tips which, if you follow in C#.NET interview or any technical interview, you will be able to clear the interview 80% of the time. In my next video, I will be discussing most commonly asked C#.NET questions in interviews, and if you prepare those questions and if you get prepared with those questions, you will be able to easily clear that C# interview round. So stay tuned to this channel and subscribe. Thank you.